Hey, it's Russell. We are back for another Rusty production, and today we are going to try and make some tongs. I've got some of this round stock, not very thick stuff, so I want to see if I can actually make something out of this, just a small pair of tongs to ideally hold flat stock. Something that's just going to be a little bit better than what I'm currently using as far as these pliers, and ideally to get rid of the teeth. I could actually probably go and smack these out and get rid of these teeth, but I think they've been hardened a bit, so it'd be easier. Well, it's not easier, but ideally I want to have my hand at making some tongs. So I've been doing a whole bunch of research on what it takes to make some tongs, and this is going to be my first chance to give it a go. So stick with me. I've got I stole one of my wife's pots, and that's going to be for quenching as we go through it. You saw I put the brackets on in the last video, so this is not going anywhere, and we can actually work on that with a little bit more speed because it's not bouncing around. I'll get the fire started and we're ready to go. So there's my rod of round stock. I've got that in the fire. That's going to be ready to move the metal in a moment. I've also got this larger piece here because I'm in the middle of doing a round punch. So I'll be heating one, banging the other, putting the other one back in the fire, and then pulling the other out to give it a hit. So I'll just set up the camera so you can watch what I'm going to be doing with the tongs, and basically point out all my mistakes, because don't forget, this is all about me making a whole bunch of mistakes and learning from them, learning how to blacksmith from the ground up. I think we're actually going to have to come out further than that. I'll reheat that and have another crack at it. Basically the idea is that we want to come out about an inch to start the tongs off, but I think I actually want to make these a little bit longer, so I'll start that same process I just did then again. Alright, that looks pretty close to step one, which is to form that shape there at the head. You can see that. Then what we're going to need to do next, we're going to put it on a diagonal. And we're going to beat into here to try and make that area where the swivel is going to be. Getting the idea, which is to actually create this, I don't know if you can see that there, create that buckling. So it's doing the right things. I've just made a bit of a mess of that bit, so I'll clean that up in the next heat. So that's a bit cleaner. I don't know if you can see that as well, it's not really focusing. Now I've got the next step, which is to bend this back. This is the part I'm not 100% sure of, so I think I'm doing it right. We'll see. That doesn't quite look right. Oh no, no, that'll be right. I think I'm just not coming up short. I'm not coming up close enough to the where I need to be. About there. I'm jumping around too much. Right, let me reheat that one. I'll have another go at it. So one of the things I'm finding is I'm letting the metal jump around too much. So looks like with the tongs, what I really need to do is make a really strong crevice in where I want to start working the metal from. So that's in the first step and also the third step. Make sure that I make a solid indentation there and then work the metal from there rather than hit it multiple times and let it bounce around. And yeah, it's like trying to put a screw in for the first time. If you skip around, really what we want to do is punch a place that we can actually work from. So let's give it another go. So I'm thinking that the this area through here, hopefully you can see that, is too large. I know I've got to get a rivet through there, but I think it's too long for the size of the tongs that I'm making. I'm going to actually reheat that, try and bring it back to where it was, and then go again. So that's clearly not right. So there's my crease. That's starting to look more like what I'm after. Obviously I've made a massive mess around here, but what I might do is I'll heat through the center, I'll chop this piece in half, and then we'll see if we can at least match it for the other side and actually start creating something that might resemble some tongs. Okay, I'm going to grab my chisel, see if I can hold this between my legs. Go about there. Very gentle. My cuts. Make sure they're in there first before going making a mess of it. Now flip it around. So just while that metal's hardening up, basically everything I've got from Bunnings, which is the local sort of do-it-yourself hardware shop here in Australia, has soft metal. So this chisel, clearly probably meant for wood, so fair enough. You can see, I think you can see how dented that is on the metal. So the same thing happened with the drill bit that I had. What I might end up doing is any of these tools that I get that are really cheap, like these ones are, I might actually try putting them through the hardening process and see if I can get some better results with cheaper tools. So I'm not quite there with that. I've now got a bucket of water, which means I can do some sort of quenching, but I think the first thing we're going to do is that punch, and once we've got that round punch, then I can sort of learn the tempering side of the steel, and yeah, we might be able to actually turn some of these cheapest tools into something that might last a little longer. Alright, probably the final cut. I just took the other steel off because I'm not punching a hole, so I don't actually need the holes at all. I will just use this space and try not to do too much damage to it, but it's cheap. That's what this is all for. It's a practice anvil, which is why I made it myself. I will buy one eventually that's more formal, but for the moment this is actually doing a great job. I think that is done. Right, there's our two pieces. Clearly one is longer than the other, but that's fine. This is about what I'm after. We'll let that one cool down a little bit while I get this one started. Alright, bringing it out for the diagonal. So that's not really hot enough to bend, but as you can see, I've come along a bit. So let's see if you can see that. There's the teeth area there. There's where we're actually going to be putting the rivet through, and there's the start of our handle. So I'm working on the second piece as well, and they are starting to fit together. I'll show you more of those as we go along. Knock a little bit of that out. Yeah, that's actually looking pretty good. I'm not sure about how much of the handle I'm actually going to lengthen, and I don't know about using round stock, about whether that becomes slippery or not. I probably will beat it out at some point, but I want to make sure that they're all going to fit together first, because there's obviously, this is the first time I've made tongs, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be rubbish, but they'll be my rubbish. So here's our two pieces. Here's how they go together, like so. I think that's pretty good. What else do we need? I think I'll have to bend these around a little bit and just sort of taper this out so that it's a bit neater. Same with that. Flatten this out a little bit more, give it a bit more space. Then I'll look at actually drilling a hole through it. I'm not going to punch it at this point, and go from there. Final thing I have to do is just flatten out this piece in the center so that I can put a rivet through it evenly, so it's kind of cleanly even rather than tapered. Just about there. Oh no. That looks like it's cracked. Alright, let me grab that camera, I'll show you. I was literally just watching a video on this about making this area here, you see where it's cracked? About making that too tapered so it became a weak point. So that's not good. I think that's sort of wrecked now. I don't know if I can actually fix it by forge welding it back into place, or whether I actually just, yeah, I don't want to use, I don't want to actually weld it. So I don't know. I think it's dead. I think we might have to start this one again. Well, that's disappointing. Oh, you live and learn. So the reason that that's actually happened is that the taper, see how it's tapered rather than actually being all one width. Because of that, I've ended up like making a weak spot right there where the crack is, and yeah, that's just not going to hold up. All right, well, let's work out what we're going to do next, and I'll come back to you. So I'm a bit off my game today. Obviously in the last video I found that I'd made a massive mistake and created a crack in the bottom of this area here, the boss, I believe that's called. So what I've done is I've reforged the other side, so that was the side I was working on, these are the sides I'm now working on, and I think we're in a better position. I punched through, we don't have any cracks at this point, and what I've also done is then just really quickly with a drill, just cleaned it up on the inside to make sure the rivet is going to go through. So I'm about to put the rivet in there. I made my own rivet. I've drilled a hole into this extra slab of metal here, which I've now got clamped to my anvil. I was able to heat up this metal here, whack it through with a nice new tool I just bought today, which is a heavy chisel, which has been cool. I just cleaned that up a little bit. Was able to cut it. I was trying to put it actually into the hole to break it off, but I did not succeed there. Ended up having to pick it up off the ground with the pliers, put it back in, whack the head around, and created probably the most rubbish rivet you've ever seen, but it is an actual completed one. So might be a little bit hot. No, that's all right. So there's the rivet I've created. Clearly you can see that it's not round, it's kind of sort of oblong as far as the head, and it's about this long, so hopefully that's going to get through. But what I'm going to do now, got to be careful, I keep burning myself today. Some of this is still hot, but basically what I'm going to be doing, putting the rivet through here, we'll go through, putting it through here, there we are, so just about there. Careful what I'm touching. Hot. No, it's alright. Just hammer that in. Okay, that's the rivet through there. I think it's probably too long. What I might do is just quickly grind it down so that it's not too much length when I actually go hammering the rivet in. And then I mean, essentially then I'll have a pair of tongs, but I will need to clean these up so that I'll actually be able to use them. So that's where we're at. Obviously I've got to cut off the the old unsuccessful versions here, so I'll use the angle grinder to do that as well. Hopefully that's not against the rules, and there we will go with the very, very first pair of terrible tongs. So I've seen all sorts of different ways for people to put rivets into tongs. I've seen them put them in hot, I've seen them put them in cold, bang them in that way. I've also seen the method which I'm going to do, which is to actually put it in cold, join them together so that the rivet's facing down, bring it out completely hot, the whole thing being hot, and then hammer it together and sort of create fix up some of the form while you're there. So I'm going to try that. I might be biting off more than I can chew. You're about to find out. Going to get them back in the heat. They do open and close, they are locked in, but I've got to clean them up now. About the size to a 1/4 inch that I want to use this for. I'll need to clean this up clearly. Might see if I can get a better piece of this for it to match. There's not a lot of, you can see I've knocked that one out too thin. There's not a lot of space for me to actually put much of an indentation in here. But let's get it on the heat and then see what I can do with it. So clearly not a great job yet, but I guess they're tongs. I've got to put some indentations in here for some round stock. That's something I'm going to do once I've cleaned these up a little bit. What I'm going to do just quickly now is chop off the ends, or the old versions that didn't work, just so that we've got an even set of arms on this thing, and then when I'm cleaning the whole thing up, I can round out the edges here as well. So I think the other thing too is that really these need to be wider. I want them to be sort of there when they're locking in, so that I can put a bit more pressure on it. So I need to widen those arms out a little bit, I think. Safety first, people. Safety first. Apologies for the sparks that are probably coming your way. These are still quite hot. And just grab the end of that. A little bit. Ah, jeez, that is hot. I have burnt myself that many times today. Starting to get ridiculous. Keep doing it. Stop touching. That's what I'm after. There we go. Just want to clean up the heads. Alright, so there's our tongs. Not quite done. Nearly there. I'm just going to clean up the edges on the handles. Rather than having them all round, I think I'd like to have them just a very slight taper. Just so that both sides match. That's hot. See the fire smoke come off it. Alright, one more heat through here and clean this butt up a little bit, and then I might actually call it done. So I'm just going to heat treat the tongs. I don't know if that's something I'm supposed to be doing or not, but I've just got a water-based quenching set up here. There's my magnet, so I'm going to check if it's at the right temperature. If it doesn't stick to the magnet, it is. Then I'm going to throw it straight into the water. Potentially it could crack, and certainly if I was doing a finer piece like a knife or something with an edge, I wouldn't be doing it this way. I'd be working out what to do with the oil. But I'm gonna do that and see what happens. So this is going to be the last bit. Ideally at the end of this we'll have a working pair of tongs. Yep, there's nothing on that. Suck it up, get like that. Get that out. Get the scale off. Good. Make sure it's still right. Yep, that's still fine. In we go. So there we are. There's my first set of tongs. They look pretty rubbish, but I'm pretty happy with them. So ideally they're for quarter inch metal. It seems to be working quite fine. Actually, quarter inch, whatever that is. I think that's about quarter inch. Holds onto it, no problem whatsoever. That's about the size that I'm going to be using to make and knock out knives. So ideally that's why I want these tongs. Pretty happy with the space there. It allows me to hold on to them with a bit more grip. If I'm holding on to something smaller, it goes all the way down, and they do just on touch. So I can hold slightly smaller things with it as well. But rivet all made myself, and the tongs forged myself as well. Did use the angle grinder just to cut off the end there, and that's about it. So let me know in the comments as to what I should be putting on these so that they stay good for a good amount of time. Because even though, you know, ideally I'll make a better pair soon, this you know, I wouldn't want to get rid of these because obviously they're my first pair. So let me know what you thought. If you thought it was interesting, subscribe and follow more of these really novice-based blacksmithing projects. But that's the first pair of tongs, so I'm happy with the result. Thanks for watching, and thanks for the opportunity to do this as a challenge through the warped challenge. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.